viewers, welcome back to Underdog Garage. I'm Bob and this is Pete, and today we're going to do a video about the brake mystery, and Pete's going to tell you about the diagnostic process and how we determine how we do this.
Yeah, so basically on our 2004 Toyota Celica we were having an issue where the brake pedal would go down and apply the brakes, but it wouldn't come back up. So what we ended up doing first was we bled the brakes to see if that solved anything, still had an issue. We took it to a local shop and they couldn't figure it out. They thought it might be the master cylinder or the brake booster. So that was the ultimate question, is where do we start?
So we started with the master cylinder. That was the more probable culprit, and it was also way more accessible.
So we swapped out the master cylinder, replaced the reservoir where the fluid sits, and it worked. After bleeding the brakes, braked perfectly and had no issues with sticking pedal. But it was interesting that the fault was actually inside of the master cylinder, a tiny little part inside the master cylinder.
So that's what we're going to show you today. This isn't a video about a DIY on how to replace and repair a master cylinder, but we wanted to show you the inside guts of this master cylinder, the particular part that failed, and then how we were able to pull that apart and discover that. And really, once we had that master cylinder off, to absolutely confirm that this was definitely the culprit and where we needed to go from that. So that's what we're going to show you today, so let's get at it.
Let's dive in.
Here you can see the master cylinder that failed. We've pulled this apart and the arrow is pointing to the primary piston and the return spring assembly, and that's the part that failed. And the inside diameter was the part that was hanging up. And here you can see the groove down at the bottom is about a 1/4 inch groove where that was worn. The retaining spring was causing it to hang up. The whole assembly that you see above the one that we pulled apart, we reused the reservoir. The body is the one that we got from the pick-apart lot, so we're putting that into the vehicle. We are putting in new OEM O-rings and a gasket. Now we've got our fully assembled master cylinder, and we're going to put new fluid into the reservoir so that we can perform this bench bleed and get it ready to install in the car.
Now it was time to install our new master cylinder onto the car. This was a bit finicky, and I had to be careful not to bend any brake lines while getting it into place. Once in place, I installed the two mounting nuts that mounted it to the brake booster. I snugged these up so it was supporting the master cylinder, but not too tight where I couldn't maneuver the cylinder enough to get the brake lines in. With that in place, it was time to put the brake lines in. I put them in by hand to make sure they were threaded correctly. I then tightened it down further with my open-end wrench. Once everything was in place, I torqued the master cylinder mounting bolts to the appropriate foot-pounds. With a quick wipe down of the master cylinder and the brake fluid reservoir for any residual fluid, we reinstalled the battery, bled the brakes, and we were all set to go. So that's how we ended up solving the master cylinder mystery. It turned out to be a little tiny cylinder inside of the master cylinder that was causing all of our problems. There are three big takeaways that we have from this repair. Takeaway number one is process of elimination and diagnosis. We went through and eliminated the parts that we knew couldn't be involved in the issue, being the brake lines and the brake calipers. We knew we had even, steady braking, and it was working. Number two was it doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. Brakes are a really critical safety component, and so we wanted to take it to our local shop and make sure our suspicions were correct, which ended up being correct. It was either the master cylinder or the brake booster. So it never hurts to get a second opinion.
And takeaway number three, don't throw parts at it. We learned a lot by not throwing parts at it and just replacing a master cylinder or a booster. That would have been several $100s even if we'd done the work ourselves. But we figured, no, we're going to do just the master cylinder. We're going to pull that apart, and we're going to find out why this thing is sticking. And once we did that, it was very, very clear. It was absolutely confirmation of the diagnosis of what we had. And then we could proceed to get the thing fixed. And, you know, we got a nice, fun field trip down to our favorite pick-apart lot. And I spent a whopping 21 bucks to fix this thing versus hundreds, even if we had done it ourselves. So always more that you can learn, and not throwing parts at the thing. Just dig a little bit deeper.
So thanks so much, guys, for watching this video. We hope it was helpful and informative. If you liked this video and you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. So.
And last but certainly not least, we love to hear from you. Give us the comments, share what's on your mind. You know, thanks for hanging out with us. And we appreciate you coming by, and we'll see you in the next video.